Buying a used car used to be a smarter move. You'd let the first owner take the depreciation hit, save thousands, and still get a reliable car. But that strategy doesn't work like it used to in 2025. Used car prices are super inflated, and depreciation isn't what it used to be. A 3-year-old car that should have lost 30 to 40% of its value is barely down 10 to 15%. That means you're paying almost new car prices for something that's already a couple of years old. So, what's the right move here? Should you buy new or should you buy used? Let's break it down, starting with used car prices. New car production is sort of back, and manufacturers are throwing out incentives to move inventory. But if you're financing a car, the average APR on a new car is around 5.5%, while used car loans average 8% or more. Now, over a 60-month loan, that difference adds up to thousands in extra interest. Now, that's even before factoring in repairs, warranty coverage, and outdated tech on a used model. Used cars aren't a bad deal across the board, but in 2025, you need to run the numbers. If the price gap between a used car and a brand new counterpart isn't big enough, you're just paying more for less car. Used car prices should have crashed by now, but they haven't. In 2025, the average used car still costs around $30,000, and prices for lightly used models are barely lower than brand new ones. Take the Toyota RAV4 Limited. A 2021 model with 11,000 miles is listed at $32,867, only about $6,000 less than a brand new 2025 model. That's less than a 15% price drop over 4 years, when it should be closer to 30 or 40%. So what in the actual hell is going on here? Well, it all goes back to the chip shortage during the pandemic. Between 2020 and 2022, new car production collapsed and millions of vehicles were never built. So that supply gap still hasn't fully recovered, and with fewer off-lease and fleet vehicles hitting the market, used inventory is tighter than ever. The average APR on a used car loan is now 11.74%, while new car loans are still lower. That higher interest rate wipes out any savings you'd get from buying used. So unless you're looking at something that's 5 to 7 years old, used cars aren't the deal that they used to be. If a model has barely depreciated, it's not the smart decision because it's just an overpriced older car. Financing a used car in 2025 comes with a bigger price tag than ever before, with the average APR on a used car loan jumping from 9.38% just 2 years ago to 11.74%, and new car loans around 5%. Now, this makes the financing gap wider than ever before. And that difference adds up fast. Take a $25,000 used car. At 11.74% over 60 months, the monthly payment sits at $551. Drop that rate to 9.38% and it's $523 per month. Over the loan term, that's $1,680 in extra interest, which is the money you're paying for an older car that's already overpriced. And man, it's worse if your credit isn't perfect. Subprime borrowers are seeing rates as high as 18.95%, making a used car loan a financial nightmare. 6.6% of subprime borrowers are already 60 days past due, which is the highest default rate in decades. This has forced banks to tighten their lending standards, which means fewer approvals and higher down payments. There's even talk of interest rates dropping later in 2025, but right now, financing a used car costs thousands more than it did just a couple of years ago. So unless you're paying cash or getting an exceptional deal, used cars aren't the bargain that they used to be. Buying used might save you up front, but once the warranty runs out, you're on the hook for everything. The average annual repair and maintenance cost sits at $1,475, or about $123 per month, and that's assuming that nothing major goes wrong. Once a car hits 100,000 miles, repair costs start piling up. The transmission replacement would run you between $3,000 and $7,000. A timing belt failure costs $1,500 or more, and even basic repairs like alternators and water pumps can set you back anything from $600 to $1,000. Oh, and if you own a luxury car like a Mercedes or BMW, expect to pay even more because A, their parts are expensive AF, and B, German cars aren't as reliable as they used to be. But hey, that's where extended warranties come in, right? They sound great until you see the price. A comprehensive extended warranty can run $1,000 to $3,000 per year depending on coverage in the car. That means that over 5 years, you could be paying $5,000 to $15,000, which is money that could have gone toward a newer, more reliable car. So if you're buying used, make sure you're saving enough to justify future repairs. If a car only costs $5,000 less than new but has no warranty, you're taking on all the risk with very little reward. So unless you're prepared for surprise repair bills, buying used without a warranty is a gamble. Know what you're signing up for because those savings disappear fast when the mechanic hands you the bill. If you're buying an EV in 2025, you better be prepared for brutal depreciation. No type of car loses value faster, and the numbers prove it. On average, an electric vehicle loses 50% of its value in 3 years, which is nearly double the depreciation of a gas-powered car. Some models are even worse. A 2022 Ford Mustang Mach-E that sold for $60,000 new is now sitting on dealer lots for $30,000 or less. A Nissan Leaf? Worthless after 5 years. But why is this happening? Well, there's 2 reasons. First, tech moves way too fast. A 3-year-old EV already feels outdated, with worse range, slower charging, and weaker battery tech than what's on the market today. Second, Tesla keeps slashing prices, which kills resale value across the board. A brand new Model Y costs $13,500 less than it did in 2022, and used values dropped with it. That's why leasing is the only smart move if you're in the market for an EV. Right now, manufacturers are practically giving away EV leases. Thanks to federal tax credits, some cars like the Nissan Leaf can be leased for as little as $20 a month. That's less than the cost of a tank of gas. So if you plan to buy an EV, get a used one. Let somebody else take the massive depreciation hit and pay half the price for a car that's only a couple years old. But buying new is only okay if you're fine with losing half your investment. If you're buying used, timing is everything. Get it right and you dodge the worst depreciation while still getting a reliable modern car. Get it wrong and you're stuck with outdated tech, expensive repairs, or worse, a money pit like a BMW 2001 E46. New cars lose 20% of their value in the first year, then 10 to 15% every year after that. Now that means after 5 years, a car is worth about 50% of its original price. So the sweet spot is 2 to 5 years old. These cars have already taken the biggest depreciation hit, but they're still new enough to have modern safety features and tech. For example, a 2020 Honda Accord costs $30,000 new, but in 2025 you can find one for $18,000 to $22,000. Now that's anywhere from $8,000 to $12,000 in savings, and since it's only 5 years old, it's still reliable and fuel efficient. Now the key here is the balancing age and mileage. A 3-year-old car with 80,000 miles might be a better buy than a 6-year-old car with 40,000 miles if it's been well maintained. Look for service records, accident history, and wear and tear before pulling the trigger on it. And if you go older than 5 years, maintenance costs start creeping up. Warranty coverage is gone, parts wear out, and you could be looking at big ticket repairs like timing belts, transmissions, or suspension work. The bottom line is that 2 to 5 years old bracket gives you the best mix of price, features, and reliability. Anything newer and you're paying too much. Anything older and you're gambling on repairs. Okay, so leasing used to be for people who just wanted a new car every couple years. But in 2025, it's a legitimate money-saving strategy, especially for EVs and luxury cars. Right now, leasing an EV is often cheaper than buying used. Thanks to federal tax credits, automakers are slashing lease prices to move inventory. If you consider that you can lease a Hyundai Ioniq 5 for $225 a month, it's kind of a no-brainer. And don't forget that EVs lose value fast, which makes leasing a safer bet. Instead of worrying about resale value, you drive it for a couple years and you give it back. No long-term risk, no massive value drop. Leasing also means lower monthly payments. Since you're only paying for the car's depreciation, a lease can cost 30 to 50% less per month than financing. That means you can afford a better car with the latest tech, safety features, and warranty coverage. It's not for everybody though. Leases have mileage limits, and if you go over, you're going to pay per mile. Plus, you're never going to own the car, so if you like to keep cars long-term, buying might make more sense. For most buyers, leasing wasn't worth it before, but it's different in 2025. With manufacturer incentives, lower monthly payments, and no resale risks, leasing is a smarter move than ever before. The smart move is usually on used cars because you can dodge massive depreciation, save thousands, and still get a reliable car, but it's a little bit more complicated than that. New cars are more expensive than ever before, averaging nearly $50,000. Manufacturers are offering big discounts, and interest rates on new car loans are sitting around 6.61%. Meanwhile, used cars still cost an average of $25,500 and loan rates are as high as 11.74%. That means that your monthly payment on a used car could be just as high, if not higher, than on a new one. Depreciation used to be the biggest reason to buy used, but it's not working the same way anymore. A 3-year-old Toyota 4Runner should be 30 to 40% cheaper than new, but it's barely down 10 to 15% right now. You're paying almost new car prices for a vehicle with no warranty and more miles. That's why the sweet spot is a 3 to 5-year-old car. That's past the steepest depreciation curve, but new enough to have modern features and decent reliability. Anything older and you're risking expensive repairs. In certain situations, leasing is now less expensive than purchasing a used car because of EV tax credits. A Kia Niro EV is just $149 a month, which is way less than what you'd pay at a grocery store these days. So if you're considering an EV, leasing is the smartest move to avoid massive depreciation losses. But if a used car is only a couple grand cheaper than new, then go new. If you're looking at a 3 to 5-year-old model, run the numbers. And if you're thinking about EV, lease it instead. The old rules don't apply in 2025. You gotta play the market to win. The car market isn't what it used to be. Buying used doesn't automatically save you money, and new cars aren't always the worst deal. With high interest rates, overpriced used inventory, and EV lease deals dropping fast, the smartest move in 2025 is to run the numbers before you buy. If you're going used, stick to that 3 to 5 year rule to dodge the worst depreciation value. And if you're considering EV, lease that sucker. Now here's the thing, before you decide, as I've said plenty of times already, run the numbers. Check the interest rates, and don't assume that used is always the cheaper option. As always, don't forget to like and subscribe for more car buying tips, and let us know if you plan on going new or used this year, especially with Trump's new tariffs jacking up prices. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.